Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This evening I'm going to be working on my wife's 2012 Toyota Sienna. She had told me the other day she was backing out of the driveway and took off down the street and noticed that the battery light on the instrument cluster was lit up, and so she called and was concerned about it, and I told her to come back home and to exchange vehicles. Basically determined that the alternator has failed, or something within it has failed, so we're gonna go ahead and replace the alternator in this Toyota Sienna, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first step that you want to do is to go ahead and jack up the vehicle and put it on a jack stand, at least on one side, because you need to take this tire off to be able to get to the belt tensioner to release the tension on the belt so that you can get it off the alternator. And ultimately it's a lot easier to get to it by getting this wheel off and getting behind this plastic panel that's back here. So we're going to go ahead and get this off. So now that we've got the tire off, the next thing that we need to do is to go ahead and take this plastic panel off. And that requires a 10mm socket for here, and then this little plastic tab comes off. You have to just push this little piece in the center in, and that releases the button on that to be able to pull out. Plastic panel gets you access to the belts and the tensioner pulley. Alright, I'm not going to do that right this second. I'll go ahead and come back to it once I have to disassemble some other parts to get to it. Okay, so before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery so that we don't hurt any wiring or computer systems or anything like that. So you just want to disconnect the ground from the battery, and that will be sufficient. Alright, so now that we got the battery disconnected, we need to make room. So here's the alternator right here. And the problem with this vehicle is that there's not a lot of room for us to pull it out of there, so we'll definitely have to pull these fans off of here. I don't think you have to pull the radiator completely out, but we're definitely going to have to more than likely disconnect the hoses to be able to pull this off, just because it's going to be in the way. But the first thing that we want to go ahead and do is to disconnect this so that we can make some room to get these fans out. So let's go ahead and detach all this stuff so that we can do that. There. Alright, so the next thing I think we need to do is to go ahead and take this reservoir off and get it out of the way so that we can go ahead and get to these fans. So let's just go ahead and take this off. So I need to disconnect these clips so I can get this off of here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The next thing we need to do is take these couple of bolts off. And I need to see if there's any bolts down below. I don't think there are. It might just clip into place like a lot of them do, but there might be a bolt down there. We'll have to see. Let's go ahead and take this off. looks like it pulls out. Okay, so I got a pan underneath there, and then right down in here there's a little yellow petcock that you gotta twist, and there's a hole in the little plastic air dam, front air dam. So hopefully the water will just drain into that little hole, which will go down into the pan and not make a huge mess. So you just need to turn this. There you go. There's a hose for the automatic transmission that you got to get off. I didn't see that. Alright. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Alright, that should come out now. I don't think anything else is hooked to it. Just needs a little finagling. You just got to be careful not to hit the radiator as you're coming out. Disconnect the power wire to this is 10 millimeter too, so everything is just about 10 millimeter. Disconnect this. Alright. Let's see if we can take this hose off of here. I think I want to go ahead and loosen that belt. So take the tension off of it so that I can loosen the bolts and pull this thing out. So it's just about ready to come out. I couldn't get the camera in here to show you while I was doing it, but I'll try to explain what I was doing. Right up there, that's the tensioner pulley. And you need to put a wrench on there, and then you need to turn it counterclockwise so that it rotates, so that you can put this little Allen wrench in that hole, and when it gets far enough you can slide it further in towards the block, and it has a little space for you to slide it in there, and that basically keeps tension loose on this belt while you're working on it. And then when you're ready to tighten the belt up, you just push it and release the tension and pull that Allen wrench out, and then it'll tighten itself back up. So it's kind of a nice little engineering trick that Toyota did there. But you want to make sure you got some kind of hardened steel there, because if that thing breaks, it's gonna go flying. So that's loose now. The next step is to go ahead and take this bolt out right here. This bracket mounts to this bracket right here, mounts to the back of the alternator back there, and then it mounts to the engine right here. So it's best to go ahead and rather than try to get a nut on this, just go ahead and take this bolt out and take the whole bracket off to to disconnect the alternator. So, and when you're doing that, there's a wire clip from this wire harness right here. There's a little plastic clip that clips into that bracket that you have to disconnect before you pull it out. So now I need to remove the bolt on the front side of the alternator, and that's this one right here. I can feel it. Yeah, this one right here. This one needs to be removed, and you need a 14 millimeter socket to remove that one. So we're going to go ahead and remove that one right now. This is a tough bolt to get to, that's for sure. Alright, finally, it's out. There you go. Alright. Wow. So I got the old one out, and now I've got the new one. And that I bought this from Toyota because I wanted a brand new Toyota part. I didn't want a remanufactured part from one of the auto parts stores. This one was $285 from Toyota, and then you had a $75 core charge, plus tax and everything was around $377 for it. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll pay that so that I can have a new part. I want a new Toyota part. And well, I bought it online from the dealer, my local dealer, because if you go into the parts department, they charge you one price, but you can get a discounted price if you get it online. So I bought it online, they shipped it to the house, and when I opened the box up, genuine remanufactured parts, which is not what I wanted. I mean, obviously I wanted a new part, and I paid $370 some, almost $400 for this thing. I could have just gotten a you know, one from AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts, or, you know, O'Reilly's, somebody, Napa, whatever. That would have been, you know, just fine, and it would have had a lifetime warranty. You know, I didn't want to have to do it again if something was wrong with the electrical parts, so I got Toyota. But I mean, they're just remanufacturing. You know, they're probably sending it off. They tell you it's them remanufacturing it, but they just slap their sticker on there and say that it's their stuff. I don't believe that they do anything different than any of the other ones do, but that's the way it is. So, but I wasn't going to go try and find a different one, and I wanted to go ahead and get it installed, and just going to bite the bullet. But let that be a lesson to you. They don't even, after when I talked to the parts department, they said they didn't even have new ones available to purchase, even if I wanted to. So you can't even get them if you want them. So might as well just go ahead and get, you know, a less expensive one from one of the other parts places. As long as it's got a lifetime warranty, you know, it's probably just as good. As long as you get the Denso version, because I was looking at Rock Auto and they had a Denso version, and I don't remember what the price was, but it certainly wasn't $377. But I'm gonna get $75 back, so it's gonna be about a $300 part. But you could probably get one for $250 easily, if not less. So that's a decent one. I mean, you can get ones for $140, $150, but I wouldn't chance it. So, in any case, at this point, it's just the reverse process of putting it back together again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you know, we'll button it all up. So I'm putting that bottom bolt in by hand as much as far as I can go, because it's the easiest way to do it. There's no real good wrench to, it's tough to get to, even with the swivel. So I'm just doing it by hand because it goes on, it's nice and smooth. A little trick to keep it on there is put a little piece of paper, well, I just got a piece of paper towel, but it keeps it on there so it doesn't fall off when you try to fish it up in there and do it by hand. Okay, now that I got the alternator all bolted back into place, I can go ahead and put the serpentine belt back in line where it needs to be. Put this in. That's good. All right. So next thing we need to do is to go ahead and put the fans back in place. Alright, and there's a couple of tabs down here and in the middle and on the other side that the fans need to fit in place on the bottom for it to be okay. I think that's it. Now we can hook up the wiring. And there's a couple of clips here. That clips into place. That clips into place. And then this one clips in like so. And then we can clip that in. The next item is this hose needs to go back in its clip. So that goes here. And then we'll clip it into place. Alright, it's clipped into place. That's what we need to do before we flip it. We're running out of gears. There we go. Please. So I finished pouring a gallon of antifreeze into the radiator, and that should be sufficient for right now. Probably needs a little bit more. I've filled this up, topped it off because it was just at the low mark. But I want to go ahead and start it and kind of burp the system to get any air bubbles out of it, and just let it run for a little bit as I continue to fill it up. We'll go ahead and test out the alternator and make sure that it's charging properly. Let's go ahead and test it out. No battery light, so that's a good sign. So let's go ahead and put a multimeter on it and check the voltage. $13.95. That's good. So we weren't getting that before. I was getting 12.3. So let's see what we're getting at the 1402. So a little bit of loss back to the battery, but definitely much better. So it's probably got a little bit of air in it still, but that'll vent into here and it'll draw. If it needs more, it'll draw in there. So I'll let it run, and I'll back it out once I get the tire put on it, and let it run for a little bit and drive it up and down the street to get it warm. And it'll probably draw some fluid from there, and then I'll just fill this up if it gets too low. But we should be good. So I think this is good to go. I backed the van out and took it around the block to kind of get it warmed up and heated up to make sure that it didn't have any radiator leaks, and that the fans were coming back on, and just getting it up to temperature to make sure everything was running right, and you know, and that the solenoids and all the electronics were working properly. So everything seems to be checking out okay. So if you have any questions about this video or the procedures, please leave me a comment below. I'll be happy to answer your questions. And if you enjoyed it, please like or subscribe to my channel. Thanks.